another episode of Smells Like Identity Hygiene. I am your host, Rosario Giacomo, and with me today, I have two special guests. The first one is Brandon Traffanstedt. See, Brandon, BT, I never say your full name, so even though we practiced, I still messed it up. But BT, as he likes to be known as, it is one of the field CTOs at CyberArk. Welcome, BT. And
happy to be here.
The second special guest, and the only way that I could get BT to join is by inviting our very own K-Bucks or Kristin Buckley. Kristin, hello. So, BT, can we start? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your role, what you do at CyberArk, and then we will take it from there.
Yeah, for sure. So again, Rosie, happy to be here. Thanks for the invite. And listen, well done on the last name. I didn't get it right until I was 10. So the fact that you got it right so quickly is absolutely incredible. But yeah, my name is Brandon, or BT. Believe it or not, it's a nickname that CyberArk gave me outside of work. I'm just Brandon, so whatever is fine. But yeah, as you said, I'm one of the field CTOs at CyberArk. So my group focuses on anything and everything to do with CyberArk's own technical strategy. Part of that is being able to join you, talk about cool stuff. Part of that is chasing our product teams to make sure we're building stuff that is actually driving positive outcomes and isn't just stuff we think is cool. CyberArk's been crazy enough to keep me around for 10 years now. Always held technical roles at CyberArk, and before that, spent a lot of time in R&D. So I was on the dev side of things as a grumpy end user before I reformed my ways and came over to the security dark side. But again, super stoked at the conversation today, and thanks again for the invite.
Awesome. Thank you, BT. And for anyone that has ever at all looked at or seen or worked with CyberArk, BT is, of course, a celebrity in those circles. But we also have Kristin, or K-Bucks. Kristin, can you tell us a little bit about your role?
Sure. Yeah, I came to Sphere about almost 4 years ago now, after doing about a 10-year stint in financial services, doing some security data analytics around identity access management space. So then I came over to Sphere, working as a product manager, and have recently been promoted to being a product strategist. So similar role, I would say, to BT, just looking at the product, how we're evolving, strategy, making sure we're delivering a product that is great for our end users and adds value.
Awesome. So first question for both of you. What is top of mind for you right now? What is the thing that you think about most? And of course, this is a podcast around identity, around security. We don't have to limit the discussion to that, of course. But I'd like to hear from both of you. What is the one thing that you think about a lot in the last, let's say 6 months?
So I'm going to be a little scandalous here and say mashed potatoes. On my mind, not just because it's after lunchtime, but the reason I say mashed potatoes is when we look at the broad scope of identity, there are two things that I find myself talking about more often than not, and that is consistency and coverage. How we can take the controls we know maybe that apply to human identities and consistently apply those to machine identities in a way that doesn't make a whole bunch of applications break or a whole bunch of developers grumpy. Same is true for coverage, right? As identity continues to, marketing word, proliferate, we now have to look at making sure those controls can expand, making sure that, of course, hygiene is set. So yeah, consistency and coverage. And the reason why it invokes mashed potatoes is because think of a big old bowl of mashed potatoes, right? You got the consistency of them taters, and you also have the coverage because you want the bowl to. And I apologize for that. I put it into your brains. So sorry. Sorry.
Now, do you do both the sour cream and the butter for the? Oh, I guess that's a baked potato, not mashed potatoes. Mashed potato is more just like gravy. Gravy or no gravy in the mashed potato?
Oh, no gravy for me. I'm actually okay. I'm okay with a little dollop of sour cream on top of mashed potatoes. But you gotta put cheese in there, like cheesy mashed potatoes. The way to go.
Okay. All right.
That was the right answer. That was a test.
I was going to stop the whole show if you didn't say that. So Kristin, what is top of mind for you?
So actually some similar points in there. I was thinking a lot about AI and where things are going, and also who's responsible. So interestingly enough, just the other day, Saturday morning, I woke up thinking about this, about AI and how identities are evolving in industry, especially, and how quickly those different pieces of what makes up a human in a company, and what do they touch, what do they do. And I kind of started thinking about the user journey when you get onboarded into a company, and what do you get right away, what do you have access to, what do you have control over, and how does that evolve over the years. And now with AI, how that will continue to evolve, and how people will play a role in that, and what new identities we might see to form over the next couple years, and how that's going to impact everything, but also how things are going to stay the same at the same time. Because at the end of the day, none of this happens if you don't have humans at a company and then they're the ones who are initiating these processes, and the AI agents or bots or LLMs, all of that's getting brought into the company because the human says we need to do this thing for our customer, right? So it's interesting how the space is going to evolve a lot, but at the end of the day, the buck still stops with the user, and they need to be responsible for what those things are doing. And I think what's going to change is not necessarily some of the methodology behind how we need to handle those things. It's still going to have to be, at the end of the day, a human saying, yes, should be happening, shouldn't be happening. We need this, we don't need this. But how complicated that's going to get to become over the next couple of years, I think, with AI and everything.
Well, yeah, well said. I'll just to add one quick thing. A lot of conversations that I have these days either go in one of two directions as it relates to AI. The first direction is, oh my God, I'm so tired of hearing about it. I went to RSA, I got AI thrown at me like all over the place. So please stop, or please have a conversation that's productive about it. And the opposite side is, oh no, I'm into this. Like, I'm concerned that not necessarily AI enriched attackers, but I'm concerned that I'm not extending the right level of controls to these now burgeoning AI identities. AI identities? I feel like we just made a t-shirt, AI identities there. So I say that because one of the things I think a lot of folks tend to forget about is the things that make artificial intelligence beautiful: the volume, the velocity, the variety of now information that can be pulled in, are also the things that carve out a very good spot for humans. Like, LLMs are fantastic at taking a whole bunch of unstructured stuff and applying some structure to it. Humans are amazing at taking structured data and making unstructured decisions on that structured data. Creativity is the way that non-nerds might refer to that. So the more of the rote work that can be done, the more time humans can spend on not only the outcomes, but things like governance. Where does this process fit? Who's responsible? Accountability, that kind of thing. So it's opening us up to more, I'll call it noodling around policy, around compliance as it relates to AI, versus just the, ooh, look, I can use it and it's going to be great kind of stuff that we see. Sorry, Rosie, got excited.
No, that's perfect. And you actually brought up one of the things I wanted to ask about: AI identities, right? So we talk about human identities, we talk about machine identities. And if you think about those two as kind of two distinct things, right? The human is that unpredictable, fleshy thing that is very creative, but sometimes does weird stuff. A machine identity, in my mind, is that kind of very, if A, then B, if C, then D, and do this, repeat it over and over again, right? Now, you take the AI identity, and does it fit as, is it a machine identity? I propose it's not, right? Because a machine identity, you could almost argue it's the application, it's the script that might be using that access to do something. Whereas, an AI identity, an LLM-driven AI identity, or an AI agent, where it has the ability to make changes, it is reasoning, it is learning, sometimes unpredictable, right? Sometimes hallucinates. Do we need a whole new category of identity for AI, specifically AI agents? Right now we think about two, human and non-human. Do we need human, non-human, and AI as three distinct categories?
So I would put the modern agentic AI identity right in the middle. So it's like the ultimate combination of human identity and the unpredictability that we get with human identity, as well as some of the limitations that we find around machine identities. And I'll give you one specific example. You can walk up to a human in an organization and say, I don't know, Bill, prove to me who you are. And Bill can say, all right, here's my little ID, I'm Bill. You can ask Bill to do things like strong authentication, right? Do a little like mobile push kind of thing. If Bill is suffering because you have invoked poor security, Bill can find you and light your desk on fire. Like Bill can let you know that bad things are happening. When you look at a more traditional machine identity or maybe more traditional AI models, they can't tell you they're broken. They fail closed. Oh, sorry, couldn't access this resource. Oh, sorry, I actually can't perform strong authentication like a human because I'm not a human, I'm a bot. So throw in some kind of token in me and then I'm good. So one of the first things that folks can do, even before we get into the modern agentic stuff and this sort of third pillar of identity, is look for ways to apply human principles to machines. Things like strong authentication. You can do it. Signature based off, better certificate management, that kind of thing. But when you have the new agentic model, yeah, that's true. But sometimes AI agents play more like humans or operate hand in hand with humans. They don't necessarily have the same, I'll call it limitations of a machine from a scaling perspective, but still need access to resources, still need least privilege, still need all the other stuff too. So long rambly story short, that's me agreeing with you that there's a third bucket where the AI with agency tends to fall. And then depending on where an organization might be or where a technology is, maybe it spills over into the machine side, or maybe it spills over into the human side.
So Kristin, your Saturday morning epiphany, was that before or after coffee? I'm just curious.
It was after, for sure.
After
yeah,
coffee,
my brain
okay.
is useless before coffee.
So where did your mind land then when you know in the context of what you were thinking about? You know, were you thinking that, you know, we have to invent new ways of controlling an AI identity or really monitoring it or kind of understanding it? Or can we take what we've done with human identities, non-human identities, and apply it to these new things?
Both, I think, is the answer to that question. So I agree with what BT was saying, where it's sort of this third bucket that could lean in either direction, right? They have some things about humans that it's more in common with, some things about machines it's more in common with. So I think discovering those identities, and especially if we don't have good controls around them when you're rolling them out and understanding what they are, let's assume something similar with what we did with cloud happens, where we just kind of explode and move everything to the cloud. We move everything to AI without really tracking it. And now we're all having this problem where we need to go back and discover everything that we have there and make sure we have the right controls on it. So if we're doing the same thing with AI, we're not tracking that and being really careful as we deploy it out into industry, then we're going to have some of the same problems, but I think it's going to be different how we solve them in terms of discovering them and understanding where they're existing, because they have a little bit more ability to learn and grow and create themselves if you don't have the right controls around them, right? So there's a little bit more to be concerned about there and figuring out how we go and discover and know everything that's out there. But in terms of solving the problem, getting those controls, the governance side of it, I think it's going to be somewhat the same, right? Like you're going to, at the end of the day, have to have somebody, a human in the company that's overseeing it. And like BT said before, looking at that structured data that we now have of these are all the things out there, and understanding how should they be out there, should they not be out there, and applying logic and an understanding of where they fit in the business and if they need to be there or if it's gotten out of control and like what we do about it. So I think a lot of what we do now around adding the governance back in, reviewing all of those cloud assets, all of the permissions that have been given, all the machine identities out there running in the cloud, we still need a human to say, this should be there, this shouldn't be there, decommission this, move this over, this is too much permissions, these are too little permissions on that machine identity. So we're still going to need that around the AI identities, but I think how we figure out what's out there, if we let it go and grow before we really control it, is going to be a little bit different.
MBT, so outside of just AI, and I've said this in like the last 2 or 3 podcasts, I have to mention AI at least 4 times. Right? I think otherwise, as a technology podcast, I get listed from Apple and Spotify. So I think we've said AI 4 times. I was keeping count in my
head. I think you got it. Maybe more like double AI. Next gen, triple gen,
we could just say
AI, models, MCP, got to throw in MCP in there.
Yeah, got to throw in all the buzzwords. But so I mean, this could include AI, it doesn't have to. But you talk to a lot of customers, right? What are people doing right? We always talk about, as security people, as technology people, we always talk about, this is a mess and that's a mess and people aren't doing this right. As a whole, are you seeing patterns of where people are doing something right, where maybe if you went like 5 years ago, it wasn't the same case?
It's funny, the thing that is going the most right, that I personally see be the most successful, is actually a really good dovetail from the AI conversation. And that is 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when we went and talked to security teams, it was very much the security hammer. You will do this because security says you're going to do this. And if you don't, well, I'm sorry, because security wins. These days, we're finding with the advent of more, I'll call it operationally focused users, more of a lower expectation of constraint for folks like cloud SREs or dev adjacent individuals. We're finding that security is approaching them and saying not do it or else. It's, hey, by the way, if we're implementing good security, it's actually going to save you time. It's going to decrease the number of clicks that you have to make. And by the way, if you go through this, we're going to recognize you, whether that's, buy the developer team ice cream because they onboarded into a new security program, or respond with more than just a thank you to folks who are reporting phishing emails. Like, the human element and adoption of security controls is becoming more at the forefront of organizations we see. And we saw it a lot, by the way, with orgs that were developer focused, right? Software vendors, that kind of thing. These days, we're seeing it more from actively or traditionally regulated organizations too, from your energy to your finance to your retail. Like, folks are taking a more human focused bend on what used to be find the best technology and throw technology at it, and it's my way or the highway kind of approach. So folks are becoming more human about providing operational and adoption benefits to security versus just bringing the hammer down. Super cool to see.
Yeah, it used to be a time where, it seemed like financial services in that market is where you saw a lot of security spend, a lot of focus on kind of, I wouldn't say the bleeding edge, but definitely the newer technology. And then when you looked at things like retail and hospitals, they might be a little bit behind. Whereas now I know that, and Kristin, you also talk to customers all the time. That gap is closing, and I would argue in some instances it's closed, right? I can't tell you, probably in the last 20 customers that I talked with, Kristin, you keep me honest with your conversations. I think the majority were not financial services, right? It was things like retail, things like hospitals, where in the past it was, they probably don't have the money to spend, and they don't have the level of sophistication as financial because they're just throwing so much money at the problem. Whereas now you're seeing it, right? There's been this recent string of attacks of retail stores, right? And retail companies. Same thing with hospitals, right? You look at some of the breaches that happened in the last 24 months. But it does seem like everyone has this common problem. So I think, Kristin, if you think about that, right, if we think about all the different industries and the problems, is there a common identity problem? Or do we have to think about silos of, well, finance needs this, healthcare needs that, retail needs that, or is it all the same common problem across all the industries? What do you think?
I think for my discussions, everybody's in the same giant boat that we're all rowing, right? So everybody, no matter what industry, everyone's infrastructure was built the same, right? Everybody's kind of experienced the same journey. And now we're all sort of being attacked in the same way, right? Like attackers are leveraging historical accounts that no one knows about out there and taking those over and going unnoticed and seeing what they can get to and escalating permissions. And I think with every customer I talk to, they're all trying to figure out that same problem. What do I have and how do I protect it, right? Like that's always the question, and how you go about that, there's a million answers to that, right? And that's something that Sphere is trying to help with, CyberArk's trying to help with, right? We all have the same common goal to help customers get to that point where they know everything and they're securing it. And but yeah, I do think it's kind of the same for everyone. It doesn't matter if your company sells shoes or if you're selling financial service offerings, or if you're selling hammers in Home Depot, right? Like everybody's kind of got the same problem that they're trying to protect their customers and protect their organizations. And just it's so huge. Everybody's infrastructure is so large. It's so hard to know everything that's out there and to make sure you're protecting it. So I think they all have come to us with that same problem.
And one of the things that shifts, to your point, is what's at stake. Like if you're working with, retail or a financial services organization, right, there is a lot at stake, right? We're talking about dollars, cents, insert local currency here. But when we're talking about healthcare, manufacturing, energy, and critical infrastructure, it's not just money. It's not just data that we're dealing with. We're dealing with the sanctity of human life. And if we mess up because of a security compromise, it could actually lead to human harm. So I'm seeing personally a lot more push of not just modernization, but visibility and coverage in these organizations that aren't just looking at the bottom line. They're looking at the safety of their patients, their employees. But the big sort of center pillar of everything that hasn't shifted is that the number one thing that impacts organizations top to bottom is identity and the potential of or aftermath of identity-related compromise. Every year, CyberArk does what we call the Identity Security Landscape Report. We're on like number 5 or 6. I've lost track now, but we just put one out where we talked to 2,600 companies across 20 different countries, and we asked them, have you experienced some identity-related incident this year? 100% of them, all 2,600 said, yep, it happened. I mean, ranging from phishing to credential theft to, insecure privilege elevation, like 100% of them said, yeah, it happened. The number got worse year over year. Not that last year was 100% too, but the number got worse this year in that more experienced 2 or more incidents. 87% said it happened at least twice. Now, I'm not a mathematician. I'm actually not really good at much of anything these days, but what I can see is that there's a pattern there. So I imagine next year, well, hopefully we don't see more, but if the pattern sticks, we will. So, Kristin, to your point, it's a common theme. Like, how do I actually find the identities that are going to be compromised? How do I put controls in place that don't make it suck? And how do I ensure that I'm going back to the business and saying, we actually did reduce risk based on the proprietary blend of herbs and spices solutions mix we're using. Now, please give us more funding so we can keep rolling this kind of stuff out. So another kind of commonality there is the need to prove that good actually happened, not just you deployed a couple of really cool solutions and somehow it works.
Well, so if you take the approach of the bad guy, right? If I'm an attacker and I want to attack this organization, regardless of what the organization is, it could be, Fortune 5 financial organization, or it could be, maybe not a mom and pop shop, but regardless, the way people work today, why would I attack the perimeter? Like, why would I attack the firewall? The firewall, yeah, okay, great. I attack the firewall, I'm inside the network, but that only gives me a small portion of where this data lives for this organization now, right? The modern organization has a mix of SaaS applications and cloud, and yes, still a lot of stuff on-prem. But if I attack the identity, I get it all, right? If I compromise that identity and I get access to that identity's credentials, potentially I can ultimately get access to the SaaS applications, to the cloud tenants, to the on-prem stuff, right? So if I attack, I mean, it makes sense, right? Why attack, a physical piece of hardware that'll give you a subset versus, that ability to potentially compromise the entire organization or a lot more, right? And get access to a lot more.
I mean, it's cool, right? Like you can throw out your offensive security toolkit and just go crazy on it, but the reality is that the lowest common denominator in every environment, every network, every deployment is us. These, I think what you called earlier, flesh bags,
fleshy,
biomechanical flesh bags,
fleshy
built on trust.
bags of I forget what I said. We'll have to roll it back. I'll have to play.
It's Occam's razor. It's the shortest path. Like, okay, yeah, you can do a bunch of backflips and gain access to cyber physical systems or traditional network, or you can just hit a human identity or even a machine one that now has access to more services than ever. And you don't need to leave an endpoint. You don't need to leave a browser session. You can get it all done right there. I'm not trying to doom and gloom it, but yeah, we're the lowest common denominator, and we have been, well, ever since this whole technology thing started happening.
It is a question I've been asking people. What gets breached, the human or the account? Is it ultimately the entry point could be the human clicking on a bad link, of course. You could brute force an account password, but ultimately, I would argue what you really want to get to is that identity, because you don't want to just get that one account. That account might not give you everything you want, right? But if that starting point, if you can breach the human and get to what that human can do, arguably you'll probably get a lot more than just an individual account. Right, especially with a mix of SaaS, on-prem, and every way that people work these days.
It depends on the end game. Like if I end up clicking on the wrong funny cat video and you compromise my identity, I can tell you I don't have back-end access at a privileged level to any CyberArk systems. I don't need it. They don't trust me. Those are kind of the two elements of the equation there. What I do have access to is our CRM. Like I can see every transaction that has ever happened between our customers and CyberArk. Now, will it mean the end of the organization if I get compromised like this? Hopefully not. Our security team's really good, but it could significantly harm the relationships that we've built. So if that is the end goal, to harm relationships and disrupt the business, that's it. The human works. If the end goal is to establish persistence, continue moving laterally, that's where I personally see a tick over into beginning to focus on built-ins, on non-human or machine identities. So again, if all we need to do is slow down the business or potentially gain privileged access into something like a cloud environment or a SaaS app, one-stop shop at the human, baby. Not even the old school way, like just target one of our privileged workforce, but there's a tick over that lets us do more damage, do things like invoke full network takeover and the like. When we start to look at machines, which typically are left to last in programs, have static credentials or using tokens or using crusty certificates. So Rosie, that's where I kind of see the pendulum swing, I guess, if we're talking about little scale, big consequences to bigger scale, bigger consequences.
Interesting. Cool. Would you argue too that that's ultimately just compromising the right human as opposed to so just pick your target based on who is in the place where you can get the most access? Because if you then compromise a network, somebody who works in the networks team, you might be able to get access just with their main account to documentation on how the network is built out and then be able to sort of scale up from there.
Cast the net wide. Going back to AI, at the very core of it, really, really helps us uplift A/B testing on attacks and things like phishing and spear phishing, that kind of thing. So yeah, why target a single identity when you can start casting that net wider and wider with the assistance of even traditional AI out there? Yeah, I did 3 more times to make sure that the AI word has
AI. I think we got it.
You're spot on. Right, we find the right identity, or just find a whole bunch of identities and see which one is going to take us the farthest. My favorite these days is the developer identity. Not just because I used to be one, but because typically those are the ones that may yell the most when security controls are being implemented. So most of the time, they're the ones who have local admin rights longer than everybody else. They're the ones who, even with their federated access, have access to super critical, even proprietary data. And they're the ones that we simply cannot afford to slow down. So if I were on threat actor side these days, you better believe I'd be targeting those overworked developers out there.
Well, so we love developers, but we all know developers are inherently lazy. In fact, it's one of the things that makes them really good developers. But it's true, right?
I prefer efficient.
I was just going to say that too. I was like, I believe that's just called efficient.
Developers are inherently efficient, right? And that efficiency sometimes means that they take shortcuts to be more efficient. We've seen developers. Optimization, yes, the optimization shortcuts. Well, instead of me waiting to get that properly issued service account, I'm going to just go ahead and use my account because it has the access that it has, and I'm going to let the service run and kind of do what it needs to do with my account. And I know we've never seen that kind of efficiency happen in the real world, but it does happen occasionally.
I absolutely did not just do that yesterday. Or Friday.
You know better.
The thing that I worry about when it comes to taking it back to AI, because if we go too long, that's the other thing. If it's too long without mentioning AI, it also. But I wonder, we talk about AI identities and we talk about the access that identity could have. Potentially, we've seen where a developer might use their personal account where they should be using a service account. Well, what if they stand up an AI agent and have that AI agent use their account instead of a properly sanctioned account, and that AI agent has the ability to create additional agents and grant access because it's an overly privileged account. And I wonder if the next big attacks that we're going to see is where someone is able to compromise an AI agent, possibly through the account that was used that was not a proper account, a properly controlled account, a properly managed account. And then with that access, essentially train the agent to do really bad things over a long period of time, a little bit at a time, where it's not noticed, but you're slowly extracting data or extracting money from that organization in illicit ways.
It's like the plot of Superman 3, which also became the plot of Office Space, right? Just take little bits. But no, it's
exactly.
It's something that I expected to see more of from a concern perspective. Like, not even getting into agentic AI, but just the fact that chances are any number of our organizations are leveraging AI augmented security solutions. And admittedly, like as a vendor, if we're not implementing some sort of machine intelligence, for every month we don't, we end up being 12 months behind our competitors. So we have to do it. But now you've got all these security tools that have modeling built in. If I'm playing the long game as a threat actor, why not attack the models? Rosie, to your point, if I can make bad look good, we can take advantage of the false sense of security that the utilization of AI-enriched solutions can give us. So I'm hearing it from time to time. Hey, like, how are you securing your models? What compensating controls do we have around security tools that use modeling in terms of having those attacked? But it's a risk, right? Anytime we have data and the potential manipulation of data that's used to feed some sort of practice, we have to now become custodians of the security of said data. Agentic AI just increases the scale and scope of that significantly. But yeah, it's a challenge that, again, I don't hear brought up as much as I expected to hear it brought up in 25.
Another thing I just heard about for the first time yesterday, actually, I was listening to another podcast, and I'm hearing that there are now starting to be products out there that you can buy that are like AI personal friends, right? Like, it's a little thing that you're wearing. It's a token that's like an AI that's always listening. And I'm just thinking out loud as we're talking now that how terrifying is that it's always listening to what you're talking about? People aren't necessarily going to be thinking about that. And I mean, I know we have that with our phones already and, big brother Google, but especially with this, like the point of it is to be listening so you can be talking to it and it can give you feedback and advice and you can be friends with it. But what if something like that is compromised and that person knows, whoever compromises that data not only knows your thoughts, feelings, emotions, how you approach problems, what your day-to-day is, then they can sort of reverse engineer how you think and then maybe can attack. If you are a steward of data, that's like one beautiful way in, and then it can be feeding to you feedback. You might be using it as like a friend to talk to, bounce ideas off of it. It can feed you information back, and you could unintentionally taint data that you're using to feed another LLM. It sort of like spins at my mind out of control a little bit, but it's a little scary. And I agree with you, BT. I'm shocked we're not hearing more people talking about how terrifying that is.
I hadn't thought of like the AI pendants like that. Like I thought, okay, like there's privacy concerns, right? Because like if you've got your phone, right, typically it's confined onto your person, it's in your pocket, something like that. It's not actively interacting. But right. This now also creates a concentric circle around those who are relatively close to you, kind of like the smart home kind of conundrum. So you are now having those around you assume the risk. Because if we get advanced enough, right, building profiling on your closest acquaintances, as an example, sort of extends the threat surface. So yeah, I am now also freaked out because you got me excited that there was like a chance that AI could be my friend to add to my friend list and make it 1. But now, no, I'll continue having 0 friends.
You have to treat your AI like a frenemy, right?
Exactly.
It's the things you love most could do you the most harm. I think you have to treat it like that.
And I imagine we'll start to see, like, if not already, because again, it's not something I talk to folks about, like we'll start seeing more corporate policies about leaving these at home, as an example, at work events, or leaving them outside of your working area during the business day, keeping it so many feet away from your laptop, stuff like that, which also, I'm surprised there aren't more, maybe there are, I just haven't seen them. There aren't more corporate policies that talk about smart homes in your home office, or not smart homes, smart assistants in your home office. Like, I don't know if y'all have seen it, but I haven't seen any specific policies rolling out.
I've seen some. We had one customer that told me a story that they had an executive that wanted to use Alexa, and they were like, no, we can't let you do that, right? We can't have a listening device in your office where you're having these very sensitive conversations and we don't know what's being recorded and what's not. So if we were to look ahead, let's talk about 5 years from now. This is going to be a tough question to answer, especially with everything changing in the last, what feels like 6 months to 2 years. But if you had to look, so BT, if you had to look ahead 5 years from now, what do you think is going to be the biggest issue that people are going to be contending with? And I know this is a really, really tough question, but kind of what you're seeing, based on what you're seeing right now, and what you've seen in the last, again, 2 years. Let's talk about it in the context of the AI era. What do you think we're going to be grappling with 5 years from now?
So in 5 years, we will have finally implemented smell-based authentication. So no more, eye-based biometrics, no more pushes, right? Just pheromone-based. So if you're there, you're logged in. It'll be the future. It'll be incredible. Just kidding. I think the big things that we'll be looking at in 5 years, regardless of whether we're dealing with the rise of agentic AI or whatever is around the corner next, or we're looking at the inevitable quantum break, and now we're refocusing in on post-quantum readiness. Really, the big concerns are going to be the just sheer increase in the volume of identity material we have to concern ourselves with, the variety of said identities, which factors in what we mentioned, and the velocity and how quickly things move. We've already seen it be the sort of uptick, right? It's the switch between the flip phone to the first smartphone, right? We are now moving at smartphone pace. That will exponentially increase. So we're living in, as our CEO Matt calls it, an exponential era. Like, for every moment that we don't act on the existing set of identities or problems, we can expect it to compound in 3, 6, 9 months, and that to keep sort of rolling down. So we're kind of at the base of the mountain, and we see this large sort of snowball continuing to grow and expand as it comes down that mountain. So yeah, as I said earlier, really those 3 alliterative V's: more identities, quicker speed, and just more variety than we've ever seen before.
Kristin, what about you? What do you think?
Oh, I'm just thinking about a conversation that I had related to BT's joke. I was just talking about how come we never did come out with smell-o-vision.
Here, I don't know that I want it, but it should be here.
And then I kind of got myself distracted on that, thinking about that again. But there's a lot of negatives there too. Got it. The more I thought about it, the scarier it became. But yeah, I think BT, you're kind of nail on head with the rate of the way technology is going, and then thinking about the capability of AI to then produce more AI or more accounts, and they can be able to double and triple that at a machine rate. So it's not even a human having to open up and type in a new username and password and like create that account. They can just do it. Decision, quick, go. So I think that's a great point. We're going to be met with this just mound of growing identity issues, and how do you get on top of that? How do you find all of those things? How do you even know it's there when you're creating it so quickly? And I'm assuming that these AIs aren't maybe not keeping an inventory. You can just go ask, maybe they will. I don't know. Maybe that's the answer. You go to the AI bot and say, hey, can you give me an inventory of everything you've created? And it knows. I don't know if it'll be that easy. We can all dream. But yeah, I think it's just kind of understanding, keeping on top of that velocity, and then understanding how to get a hold of it, bring it back down, and kind of get some control over it. But it's going to be a big challenge.
True facts. And I think the hotness is, right, we're talking about kind of the risk, but at the same time, the tooling that we have will continue to become better. So what it comes back to that everyone can act on is start automating the poop out of everything. Like if today in whatever you use, you have manual processes, maybe you rely on someone to fill out a form to register a new identity, whether it's human, whether it's machine identity, whether it's AI, like start automating. The more you do now, the less you'll have to do in this sort of exponential phase down the line. And I can say with great confidence that, I mean, if you're a CyberArk customer, if you're a Sphere customer, great, automation is there. But every single security solution out there has some mechanism to help you automate. Start using that to sort of get yourself ready for all of these sort of increases in scope, increases in speed, that kind of thing. Like start the automation process now if you haven't. And by the way, if you don't have a really good relationship with your infrastructure ops teams or your DevOps teams, as an example, this is one area that you can learn a lot from them on, because to our points earlier, they're efficient. They want to build in the automation, and these principles can be copy pasted into your security or identity programs too. So you can learn from them just as much as they can learn from you in terms of good best practices, policy, that kind of thing.
That's really true. I think it's really important as things grow that everyone in the organization is aware of security and on team security, right? Not just feeling like, because even Bob in marketing, right, who's got to like now do this whole MFA thing to log in, just can't be bothered. So annoying. I hate security. If even somebody who doesn't sort of traditionally sound like an IT person who needs to, or a developer who needs to be coding around security, if everyone's aware of that and is invested in like the stakes that you were talking about earlier, if you work for a medical device company, even Bob in marketing needs to be excited and embracing security to make sure that he's protecting the people they're servicing, right? So the stakes are there for these different companies, even if you're not in a role that you would naturally think you'd have something to do with it. So getting all of those people on board with security and making it something that everybody's sort of working together to achieve, instead of this big bad another thing I have to do to like start my day and do my job. Like if we can pivot that conversation, I think that'll help a lot as well. And to your point, making those relationships and understanding and starting to get that the theme or like the sort of the way we look at and talk about security in companies, changing that so it's more of a something everybody wants to work together to achieve than something that's sort of holding people back, and getting them to understand that, hey, if we all do this, we're protecting our customers, we're protecting our business, we're protecting everything that we're working towards, and we're also, it can help us be more efficient now. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a now pain in the butt thing you have to do and another thing you're going to have to do before you can do your job. So kind of changing that conversation, I think, is big too.
Awesome. So we've reached the part of the podcast where we move away from asking all these serious questions and all these kind of questions about the current state of security, and we ask a fun question. So
these questions have been fun. What are you talking about?
Well, how about, instead of fun, how about I say non-technology, non-security related question? I have a slight deviation. Well, I have one question for you, BT, and the question for you, K-Bucks, is a little bit different, but kind of in the same theme. So, BT, if you had to drive just one car for the rest of your life, what car would it be?
All right. So I have clarification questions that I'll ask you.
Okay.
Will this car just come with all of the issues that exist? Like, will it, if it breaks down a lot, it's known to break down a lot, will it continue being like that? Or will I have like the perfect state of, this is a car I've got, maintenance free, running as well as it did the first day I bought it, kind of a thing?
I feel like I can see exactly where you're going with this question.
How about this? The car, you have to stay with the same make, model, and year, but you could replace it yearly.
Okay.
But you get a brand new, every year you get a brand new, that year, that make, that model. So the things that come with a car, like, you know, a car that you're driving for 20 years, you don't get that, right? So, but it is that car. So, but if that car brand new has a flaw, then you get that flaw.
Okay. All right. I have my answer.
Okay.
And it was a difficult one, but 1980 280ZX Datsun, black gold, so lavishly appointed, there are virtually no options. Like that's the one with the Top Gun soundtrack in the cassette player. Like, so if I get all that over and over again, mints, I'm set.
Okay, so now the real question is why? Why that car?
Why not?
Well, I mean, is there something, you know,
machine that has
have you had one before? Was it a car from your childhood? Is it like, has it always been your dream car? Like, what is the story behind why that car?
So I've never had one, but I have driven one before. But what got me interested there was there is the most late 70s, early 80s commercial ever that talks about this like special anniversary edition. Like the guy has like straight up mustache, like they're really into it. So the commercial alone is what sold it. But I'm a big fan of sort of Datsuns and Nissans around that period. Also, as a nerd, big fan of the DeLorean. But the problem with that one is 0 to 60 in 12 seconds. I don't know if that's a good trade-off for the Gullwing doors. So, but no, for me, like it's the one that came to mind. I will say the reason I asked the question though is my very first car was a 1969 Volkswagen Bus that I bought out of a junkyard and spent all my like summer earnings on sort of refurbishing, and I did everything but replaced the gas tank, which was just rusting to nothing. So every like maybe 3 weeks, big old piece of rust would get stuck in the carburetor, and I'd end up having to push the bus, which is okay because they're tight. But maybe if I could have that one with like a good, non-rusted gas tank, that was a pretty cool ride outside of the lack of air conditioning. But what are you gonna do?
Well,
0
how do
to
you feel
60.
about the new ones that they're coming out with now, the new electric buses?
The ID Buzz.
ID Buzz.
I'd like to like have one for like a week and like play around with it.
Yeah.
So Kristin, the slight deviation, because I know your answer is going to probably be like a C6, C7 Hunter Green Corvette, right?
Cheating. We had this conversation like 2
Yeah,
days
we've
ago.
had this conversation. So I have a slight tweak, right? That is your ideal car, right? The car that's your dream car, not a C8.
Yeah,
I mean, we could have that argument.
C6, when that came out, that just spoke to me. I don't know.
All right, so let's say right now, I can give you the keys to a Hunter Green C6, 0 miles, brand new, and every year you get that same exact car.
Is it a convertible?
Of course. I mean, that's a given.
You didn't specify.
But to get that, you have to give up coffee for the rest of your life.
Oh, that's just a mean trade-off.
You drive around the block a couple times. It's the same as coffee.
You could drive the car.
I might have to. Well, okay. Here's one.
Oh, and wait, you can't replace it with tea or matcha. No. Or caffeine pills. Experience. You can't replace it with caffeine pills. It's like no coffee and no caffeine. Nope. You have to give up all.
Can I work from my car? I guess is the next question.
Sure.
Then I think I would do it.
Oh, so you would give up coffee for the Corvette?
Well, I'm getting all of my energy from the car then. Yeah.
Interesting. So for me, it would be a 911 Turbo S. I figure it's the right mix of sports car, and I know, Kristin, you and I have had the conversation, the debate about if it's a reliable car, a real sports car. But I figure a 911 Turbo S, it's got the right amount of sportiness, speed, and kind of everyday drivability.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I think I would.
The backseat situation.
Yeah, the backseat situation
from someone who has driven in the backseat of that car.
Yeah, true. It would not be convenient, but I would really enjoy that inconvenience almost every day.
Well, then I can't remember. Was there a stipulation that you could have no other car, like no secondary?
No. Well, yeah, I guess I really didn't think it through. You could have a second car, but you can't drive it. You could only drive that car. So I guess you could have someone else follow you in the bigger car, in the minivan, to bring all the people and all the stuff, I guess. But yeah, the idea would be that this is the last car you will ever drive for your life. So yeah, I think and I'm not even that much of a Porsche guy. I just figure it's
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that answer.
Well, I'm thinking the real answer would be the Ferrari Scuderia, but then that's not a daily driver. It's not comfortable. It's that's the kind of car that you have as a second or third car. But if it's your only car, right, you do have to pick something a little more practical. I mean, I would argue that the C6.
I was going to say, now that you're saying this, maybe I would need the E-Ray for the all-wheel drive for skiing. Yeah.
And the roof rack for the skis, right?
There you go. I'm surprised that none of us came up with just like some like random thing, like an ice cream truck that's like kitted out or something like that. Like I feel like we took off the shelf options, and maybe there was another path here that we could have gone down.
Dream bigger is what you're saying. Dream bigger.
Think outside the box, maybe. Now that you've got me thinking about it, like I'm gonna have to replay this in my head.
How about an electric powered school bus that does 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds, where you get the speed, you get the convenience. You probably flip it over.
I was gonna say, I'd be too worried about flipping it.
Yeah.
But you get one next year. So all you have to do is survive.
But see, and the thing is, sorry.
All right, you go ahead. I have another question to ask y'all too, since we're asking fun questions. I got a good one.
So the reason I came up with this question is because I sent you the video of the new ZR1 K-Bucks, right? And the car it's 1,069 horsepower. And you can't drive that car fast. I will, if I ever own that car, that will be where I die, right? Because, I mean, you could appreciate it, you could respect it, you got to take it easy. But then, the music's blasting, it's nice out, you're feeling confident, you hit the gas, you spin that thing out, and you're dead. And that is exactly, if I ever owned that car, mark my words, that is how I will die, because I will kill myself in that car.
The right road and the right song. You're not wrong.
And that's why you have to think. And now, not to say that you know, the 911 Turbo S can't do the same thing. You know, there's a strong possibility that that'll kill me too, but I think there's less chance than the ZR1. I think
you can trust yourself more.
I think a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. But what was your question, BT?
I got asked an amazing hypothetical question, and I apologize because I put thought into it, but I'll ask the two of you: if you could assume the life of one fictional character, whether it's comics, movies, video games, whatever, but you had to live out the rest of their life with all the problems that you know about, every trial that's faced, who would you choose?
Yeah, I feel like that's going to need some thought.
maybe on the next podcast, y'all can share with me, assuming that you invite me back. That would be awesome if it were true. But
absolutely. But the first place that my mind went was Batman. But then when you continued, I was like, oh, but dead parents, right? Yeah. And that trauma, that childhood trauma. Then the Spider-Man, again, trauma, right?
Batman was my original first choice as well, until I came up with what I believe is the perfect choice.
Oh, well, now you got to tell us. We can't end the podcast without you telling us your choice.
Yeah, I feel like yours is going to be the Big Bang, though. I will throw out my gut was some sort of like TV hero, cop detective bucket.
Okay.
I feel like I would go that route because I feel like the trauma just adds interest or like character, you know. Nice. So you just become a really interesting human who's seen things and is still doing good in the world. So that would be my gut. Plus, I like the mystery.
You ever notice in those TV detectives, they always have like really, really awesome cars and houses. Yes. You know, they're supposed to be like a city cop, and then they go into this huge apartment. I'm like, what is this? Well, you know, you must be crooked to get that nice, or the really nice old school sports car. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you have to have the right car to fit whatever undercover character you're playing, so you can also kind of be whoever you want. And at least in the TV shows, if they're fictional, they never die, so it's great. You don't have to worry about that part.
Right. Yeah. True.
I like that. Yeah. Good choice.
Well, that's my gut, but I'll keep thinking, see if anything else pops.
So now, like, mine's like way less cool.
Like, yours is definitely more
really cool. Mine is just like nerd. But so my choice, less than yours, K-Bucks, you've got the right one, is Bilbo Baggins. That's who. Because think about it. Like, Bilbo, first of all, has property, which, okay, cool, right? Inherited property, legit. Lives the first portion of his life just having a great time, eating a bunch of cheese and bread, hanging out in the Prancing Pony, just having a great time. Goes on a wicked cool adventure, right? Meets a whole bunch of different characters, right? Thor, meet Gandalf, all that stuff, and then gets to go home afterwards with money. So dude living it up, goes on an adventure, comes home, fast forward a couple years, adventure round 2. Ends up, writing a book, scooting around, and I'm sorry it's a spoiler, but I mean it's Lord of the Rings, but like dude just goes and hangs out with the elves forever. Like pretty cushy kind of scenario from my perspective. So yeah, Bilbo is my choice.
That's actually a really that is a good one. Yeah. Long life, well,
good times,
die, right? Good times.
100 pink.
Writes a book.
Can I throw out a question too now that we're all passing around a question? So I do have a great question that I ask everyone. This is a thing that a couple friends and I in the my ski friend group started questioning, and now it's really interesting to me to hear everybody's perspective. But what would be the perfect hot tub food?
Gosh,
there's a lot of angles to consider.
Is alcohol involved?
It can be, yeah, absolutely. It's optional.
Well, I'm saying too much alcohol where you got to worry about I'm going to spill it. I don't want to spill it in the hot tub kind of situation.
Sure, that's not food. That's a beverage, I guess.
No. I don't mean like if is alcohol involved when you're consuming that food? Do you have to worry about the person who's going to get drunk and get the pizza into the hot tub?
Oh yeah, you probably should consider it. But also pizza inherently bad because you got wet hands and you have to touch it.
Oh, right.
Like my brain immediately went to remember those Flintstones push pops that you would get? Like my brain was there, and I was like, "That's perfect." But then you made me think, like it was cardboard, so if it got wet, it would just like bleh, just kind of disintegrate. So now I'm lost.
You're actually
you don't have a table.
Not too far off from what I believe to be the right answer after my years of research. But
is it soup?
The hot tubs are 104 degrees.
Like I guess
cold soup?
You can have a cold soup, yeah.
I guess that's true. You can have a cold soup, but then you have to have spoons, and it's very drippy.
No, you can drink it. You can just drink it, right? Let's drink it in a
mug.
Like
a cup of soup?
Yeah, like a mug of soup.
I mean, I guess there's some practicality to be considered there. Yeah.
Or, I mean, if we're going down that road, how about a smoothie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? You're not touching it. It is food, right? Enough yogurt, protein powder.
I guess that's true. Yeah, that could count. I would still put that in the beverage category. I feel like all beverages are kind of on the table for hot tubs. That's a pretty easy option.
I feel like we're missing something like super obvious, like the most obvious thing ever. And maybe Kristin, yours is like the next level one, but I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I gotta know yours. I'm out. Like my brain is still stuck on the Flintstones push pop.
Flintstones pop is a solid option, but you're right, the cardboard is the thing that breaks it. So I would argue thus far the best one that I've discovered is a Klondike bar.
Okay.
And the reason because it's in a tinfoil wrapper. So you don't have to worry about touching it. And when you unwrap it, it catches any drips. And the shell inherently holds in the ice cream. So when it melts, you're not going to get that all over you. And it's a good temperature to balance out the heat. So it enables you to stay in the hot tub longer.
I see that.
Yeah. So that's the one I found so far.
Bar jingles in my head.
Yeah.
Do they have flavors of those, by the way, or is it just like the vanilla? Like, do they have like a mint chocolate chip Klondike bar?
Oh yeah,
they do. In fact, have a mint chocolate chip Klondike bar.
That would be the flavor that I would choose for like the hot tub.
Yeah, have tried, successful.
But why wouldn't you? But why wouldn't you just get ice cream in a cup?
It would melt, overflow the cup, drip in the hot tub.
Oh, but you're holding the cup the same as you're holding the ice cream. Is it the chocolate shell that's
you'd also have to bring
melting?
Like a spoon into the hot tub and like
you also need a spoon. But yeah, I mean, have you ever just gotten a cup of ice cream and then walked somewhere in the summer? It melts and it overflows the cup.
Oh, well, you could get a bigger cup
or a half full cup, but I think bigger cup is better.
Yeah. Or what about mashed potatoes? Mashed potatoes in a big cup.
Yeah, I guess you could consider some things like that. I can't say I've ever considered eating mashed potatoes in a hot tub. I'm gonna have to think about that next time I'm in a hot tub.
Does feel like it'd be a weird thing.
You're
not eating a
cream
steak
and cheese on it, and then you have to have a whole buffet, and then you're gonna spill the toppings.
I mean, it's not really food. We're talking about because you're not gonna eat a steak in a hot tub. It feel weird, right? Or
baked
potato,
it's just the cutting
French fries. No, because your hands are wet.
Yeah. Touching it is problematic. And also anything you have to stab with a toothpick I thought about for a while, but those things fall off the toothpick.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, if you come up with anything ingenious, let me know. But yeah, the paper cup is the problem though. It's you have to come up with a metal cup or something.
Yeah. I gotta say, you've given me a lot to think about.
Mostly not about security and technology.
Do that all the time anyway. I'd rather think about the thermodynamics of a cup of ice cream in the hot tub.
Driving your 280Z.
In a hot tub, just consider what should I be eating right now and how badly would it go.
Forever.
Could you say the same thing for just taking a bath? Something to eat while taking a bath. Would the hot tub, the fact that it's hot, add a new element to it, or would it also apply? Oh, it's outside.
It could be rainy.
Yeah, and it's a social thing. You have other people. Yeah.
But yeah, and the temperature stays hot, and you've also got bubbles, so that kind of messes with it with the spraying option of water. How much chlorine do you want to eat? Process.
This is one of the occasions where bagel bites is not the most perfect food. It's rough.
Yeah, which is sad actually.
Maybe you should invent a whole new food category. a series of wrappers that you could eat a bagel bite, but it is like a Klondike, because your thesis is that the wrapper is what makes the Klondike bar.
Well,
right?
no, because it's also
it's the chocolate wrapping.
Because
Yes.
you could very practically hold the bottom and eat from the top and have everything be caught. Otherwise, with the bagel bite, it's going to be hard because how do you hold that without like disturbing the toppings on top and getting the right ratio of bread to sauce
and it's
to
cold,
cheese?
right? The fact that it's cold is also
Cold helps with the hot tub, yeah. Depending
And
on how many hours we've been sitting in the hot tub, it also changes your perspective on what you want.
That's a business. Make stuff hot tubbable. Like take something that's perfectly serviceable outside of the hot tub and add all the right things to make it proper hot tub enjoyable.
Yeah.
cold and big wrapper.
Freeze dry. Yeah. So anyway, something to consider next time you find yourself in a hot tub.
Well, we have definitely gone off the rails, but this is all fantastic. I think this is what people actually listen to the podcast for. BT, this was fantastic. K-Bucks, as always, thank you so much. And BT, anytime you want to come back, it's open invitation. Thank you so much.
Appreciate that, Rosie. It was an absolute pleasure, as always, anytime that all of us can get together and chat. So thank you both for that as well.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Smells Like Identity Hygiene. Smells Like Identity Hygiene is a production of Sphere Technology Solutions, and our producer is Matthew Kling. Until next time.